This obviously came across my desk, and I want to address it because I think that it's important for us to have this conversation on both sides, not just holding each other accountable on one end, but also holding ourselves accountable on the other end also. All right? Let me go ahead and play this, and then we're going to go ahead and react to it.
The 84-year-old man accused of shooting a black teenager who went to the wrong house surrendered to police in Kansas City, Missouri Tuesday. 16-year-old Ralph Yarl was trying to pick up his twin brothers from a friend's house, but went to the wrong address. His mother spoke with Gail King on CBS Mornings.
He was supposed to stay outside, and his brothers were supposed to run outside, get in the car, and they come home. And that was what was supposed to happen. And while he was standing there, his brothers didn't run outside, but he got a couple of bullets in his body instead of a couple of twins coming up out and giving him a hug.
The suspect, Andrew Lester, bonded out of jail after being processed on 2 felony charges. Civil rights leaders are calling for hate crimes to be added to the list. Adriana Diaz has more from Kansas City.
So apparently, for those of you that are not familiar, apparently what's going on is the 16-year-old, and this is one of the reasons why we pray for our children as they go to and from, because it's so many things that's outside of our hands that we can't control. Even the Bible said rains on the just and the unjust, meaning that life happens and there's things that you just cannot control as a parent. But when you let your children go out, you try to teach them the right way. It's stuff that just happens that you just can't even control, that they didn't even find themselves in. You know, he didn't do anything wrong, right? And so he went to go pick up his younger brothers. Apparently he waited for them to come out, but he was at the wrong house. And next thing you know, he got a couple bullets in him from an 84-year-old. But let's continue. Let's get the whole story before we react to it.
Today, Ralph Yarl's classmates marched in solidarity and support. Ralph's mother, Cleo Nagby, says her son is recovering from being shot in the head and arm.
That's sad. I could not imagine, not even a little bit, I could not imagine sending my son or my daughter out to go and pick up they twin brothers or sisters or whatever it is, and then having to go and meet them inside of the hospital looking like this. I could not imagine. Not in a million years could I ever imagine. You just don't wake up and think that type of stuff is going to happen to you specifically. But let's continue.
Mostly he just sits there and stares, and the buckets of tears just rolls down his eyes. You can see that he's just replaying the situation over and over again.
Andrew Lester faces 2 felony counts, armed criminal action and first-degree assault.
So let's look at Andrew Lester. Let's take a look at him.
Andrew Lester faces 2 felony counts, armed criminal action and first.
All right, so his two felony counts are armed criminal action and first-degree assault. Armed criminal action, 2 felonies. That's it. Armed criminal action and first-degree assault. 84-year-old man got this kid in the hospital. Armed criminal action, first-degree assault. Now, before I break this down, I want to get the whole story so that I can better understand exactly what's happening, because I'm familiar with what's going on social media as far as the headlines, but this is actually the first time that I'm watching a video.
Degree assault. According to the criminal complaint, the 84-year-old told police he had just laid down in bed when he heard the doorbell. He picked up his gun and said he saw a black male approximately 6 feet tall at the door, telling detectives he was, quote, scared to death due to the male's size and Lester's old age. The complaint says Lester repeatedly expressed concern for the victim.
Ralph went to an address on this road. This is Northeast 115th Street, when in fact his little brothers were just a block down. You see that green street sign there? That's Northeast 115th Terrace, just about 100 yards away.
Ralph's family says as he was trying to get help, someone yelled at him to get on his knees and raise his hands.
So let me get this straight. He knocked on the door And the dude immediately grabbed his gun. Now, one of the things that I know for sure, right, as we break this down, one of the things that I know for sure, because I just did a renewal for my CPL, which is a concealed pistols license, right? And they went through 1,000 different scenarios in which they broke down what you could be prosecuted for and what you had to let get away. So, for example, they said that if you look outside and you see somebody breaking in your car, if you go out there and you shoot them, then you are going to go down and you are going to be prosecuted as a result of it. They also gave another example, and they gave literally countless examples. And they said, listen, if somebody knocks at your door and you shoot through the door, you are going to jail, and you cannot just shoot somebody through the door without them entering your property and threatening your life. Having a gun is a responsibility. All right, let me continue.
All we hear is a bunch of banging at our door.
In his first television interview, Zach Dovell, who lives across the street, says he and his mother went to help.
There was blood from where he was at, all the way up, all over the door.
Dovell says he is still replaying that night in his head.
You hear about these things on the news over time, and then when it really happens to you, it's a life changer.
When you have images of Ralph, what do you see?
I see fear.
You saw fear in his eyes?
I saw fear in his eyes.
And Adriana Diaz joins me now for more. Adriana, what else are we learning about Andrew Lester, if anything?
Well, John, the neighbor that we spoke to told us that Mr. Lester, seemed to keep to himself.
Look at the Pookie. Listen. I know this is supposed to be about the 16-year-old teen and the 84-year-old man, but listen, this is what women deal with on a regular basis. Look how fearful she is when this dude walked by and started eyeing her from the back, from the top to the bottom. This is what, this is crazy. Check this out. Hold on, check it out.
And the neighbor that we spoke to.
Look at my man. Look, you see her? You see that, Rita? Look. In real time, you niggas is crazy. Y'all are menaces. She on the news and it's a news camera right in front of her. Let the chick do her little segment. Check it out. Look. Check this out.
Well, John, the neighbor that we spoke to told us that Mr. Lester,
she moved up. You see
seemed
that?
to keep to himself. He hadn't seen him in the neighborhood, even though that.
Hey, you see her move up, Rita? Look. Check it out.
Well, John, the neighbor that we spoke to told us that Mr. Lester, seemed to keep to himself.
Christ. Who could have predicted that in this situation in which we're supposed to be talking about an 84-year-old and a 16-year-old, that Adriana Diaz is going to be fearful because it is Pookie that's walking with his hat tilted to the front looking like a Crip, is eyeing her up and down while she's supposed to be having a conversation with the news crew. Man, get out of here. We're trying to find out what's going on. I got to play this again. This is so dumb. Look at this foolishness.
Well, John, the neighbor that we spoke to told us that Mr. Lester, seemed to keep to himself. He hadn't seen him in the neighborhood, even though that neighbor had just been there for about 6 months.
You can't make this up, Rita. You cannot predict this. You cannot make this up. When these clips are loaded onto my live stream in order for me to have this conversation, you cannot make this up. What the heck is going on out here in these streets? Right after we gave the King Talk speech, he eyeing the chick up and down. So I probably was like, what's up, shouty?
But one of the things that the family and the family's attorney is really focusing on is the fact that Andrew Lester was allowed to be free for the last 5 days for the most part. He was brought in for 2 hours and then released.
What they think, he gonna flee the country? An 84-year-old man is gonna flee the country? I don't know, man. Obviously, the dude is wrong as two left shoes. Obviously, he needs to do some jail time. But it ain't really going to matter because it's just going to be a symbolic victory because it's a strong possibility that the dude is going to die before he get out of jail. He done lived his whole life. Let me tell you something about Andrew Lester. Andrew Lester has probably lived with a level of fear and racism against black people for his entire life. Andrew Lester is 84 years old, right? Let's just remove the four, because you know I like to do my mental math. Let's remove the four, make it three. So let's assume that he's 83 years old. It's 2023. We subtract that 23 from it. So in 2000, he was 60, which means that this man was born in 1940. He was born in 1939. If we add the one, you see me doing my mental math. Math ain't bad. Y'all can figure it out. So this man is born in 1939. 1939, in the 30s. This man has probably programmed himself his entire life. He probably been waiting for this moment his entire life. This man lived through progress and segregation and the civil rights movement, and he's seen the growth of black people in affirmative action. I'm gonna just be honest with you. You don't pick up a gun and start blasting through the door because you've seen a black person. Let's be real. Let's just be 100% real. You don't just start blasting through the door. There's no way in hell that you can then justify this and say that I seen a tall black man that was at least 6 foot tall at my door, and you just start letting loose through the door. I'm not going for it. There's no way you're going to sell me on it. I tell y'all not to run in the victim Olympics, but then at the same time, we're not just going to excuse egregious behavior in order to justify it. Now, I know in a lot of instances, I like to hold people accountable for always tying it to race, but this is just absolutely undeniable. This is absolutely undeniable. And so you cannot sit here and justify to me in no way, shape, or form that a person that is knocking on the door and you just blast through the door and you can justify it as anything other than a form of fear and racism because you've never actually took the time to become a better version of yourself, to understand that there's other people that don't look like you that may be good just like you. There's no way in the world you're going to sit here and tell me that we can justify this.
We're told by the family attorney that in Missouri he could have been held for 24 hours, and that didn't happen. He was allowed to be released.
Oh, Jesus.
Then, no one knew where he was.
Nah, ain't nothing like getting them black folk. I don't really know what they think is going to happen. It's nothing like getting the people riled up. Now we got to get our neighborhoods tore up. Hey, guys, nothing like tearing up our neighborhoods and rioting because we don't like the fact that he was released early.
Until today, when he did surrender and bonded out a short time later.
And Adriana, how is the family reacting to the specific charges that have been brought against him?
I asked that question exactly, John. I said, did you want...
Is he 5'6", 125? Chris Thomas? That's crazy. That's crazy.
Stronger charges? Did you want attempted murder charges? And the family told us that they're actually satisfied with the charges that were brought. The two charges are armed criminal action and first-degree assault. The mother of Ralph and his aunt spent time, along with their lawyer, with the prosecutor today to go over those charges, how the prosecutor came to that conclusion. And they told us that, after having that discussion with the prosecutor, they learned that there is no stronger sentence, that attempted murder wouldn't bring a stronger sentence than the charges that were actually brought, a maximum of life in prison. And so for that, they were satisfied that they're here and their focus is on a conviction and a sentencing upon.
So the parents are smart. You see when you start to remove the emotion in order to make a better decision. What the parents said was, listen, the actual additional charge that he could possibly get out of would probably hinder what it is that we got from the case instead of helping. And this man is going to die in jail once he get these charges anyway. Man, this man is going to be gone. Honestly, he lived his whole life. He lived 84 years on this earth, and now he's going to get 3 hots and a cot and free meals for the rest of his life. He's gonna get 3 hots and a cots and free meals. He'll probably be dead before he ever touch a prison. He'll probably be dead before he ever touch a prison. But
punishment, and they're less concerned about trying to get an attempted murder charge. But one thing that I, want to clarify that Ralph's aunt told us this afternoon. She said, Ralph's height is 5'8", and in that criminal complaint, Mr. Lester said he was 6 feet tall, and that was part of why he said he.
Yeah, this is it's bad. It's absolutely egregious. There's no excuse for it. But unfortunately, in these type of situations, there won't be any justice. It won't, honestly, it won't be any justice. We can sit here, we can mind it out, we can get mad at it. Y'all can sit here and march for it and all of this other type of stuff. But there won't be any justice. And the reason why it won't be any justice is because he's 84 and he's already at the end of his life, so he's not really going to suffer from it. He was probably already suffering just being by himself. In which he found himself in a situation where he finally got it what he wanted. He probably finally got the thing he'd been dreaming of and the things he'd been talking about for his entire life. Somebody in the chat said this was his final test before going to hell. Maybe. But there won't be any justice. And I don't even know what justice looks like because this man was at the end of his life and he tried to take a life of a 16-year-old. And there's nothing that you can say that can atone for it. I'm just thankful that the 16-year-old is still alive. And I'm also thankful for him having reasonable parents that's able to think through the situation in order to make a more informed decision. Shout out to the Pookie. This guy right here, hold on, let me see. Shout out to big homie that was walking past. Had to fuck up the whole stream.
Well, John, the neighbor that we spoke to
Shout out
told
to
us that
him.
Mr. Lester, seemed to keep to himself. He hadn't seen him.
And she kept it professional. And the camera kept following her, too. She kept it 100% professional. One more time for the Pookies in the building. Look at her. That's the scene right there. That's the scene right there. Look at him. We see this type of guy every single day. Every single day. They be typing hard in the chat. They be getting mad at me saying that we need to stay on code.
That we spoke to told us that Mr. Lester,
She stepped in front of me.
seemed to keep to himself. He had.
See that?